cold open in the ruins, the boy in the serpent's shadow. The house is broken and full of echoes. Halloween night, Godric's Hollow. A cottage that should be quiet, should be safe. Half the roof gone, one wall peeled back like torn parchment. Smoke crawls along the ceiling. Plaster dust drifts in the air with the slow, lazy fall of snow. The metallic tang of spent magic hangs over everything, sharp on the tongue, like blood on a bitten lip. Lily's last scream is still in the walls. It shivers in the cracked glass of the window, in the overturned chair, in the wand lying where it fell from her hand. It has no throat now, but it lingers, a sound that will not quite agree to die. He stands in the nursery doorway. Voldemort looks at the room the way a collector looks at a cabinet already chosen, already measured. He has been planning this, he thinks. The end of a prophecy, the neat closing of a circle, the removal of a single infant from the world, and with it a threat that was never meant to grow teeth. The crib should be empty. It is not. The boy is there, small and silent amid scorched blankets, a blackened scorch mark on the wall behind him, where the first curse met something older and refused to pass. The lightning-shaped wound on his forehead is still raw, seeping a thin line of red that glows faintly, as if the blood itself remembers green light. Voldemort steps closer. The floorboard under his heel complains. Nagini coils at his side, scales whispering against the ruined wood, tongue tasting the air. She raises her head, fascinated. They look at each other, man and serpent, master and familiar. A moment of understanding passes between them. There is something wrong with the air around the child. He feels it before he can name it. A tug in his chest, a subtle drag on his own magic, as though the room has acquired a second gravity and both are anchored in the same place. The boy, the scar, the faintest echo of his own soul clinging there like smoke to charred stone. It is not knowledge yet, not theory, only sensation. But he knows enough. He lifts his wand. The words are easy. They have always been easy. The motion is precise, almost lazy. Green light gathers at the tip, eager, familiar. Avada Kedavra spills from him like breath and stutters. The curse jerks, fractures, collapses back into the U as if the wand itself has changed its mind. The light gutters, then threads inward, a serpent returning to its burrow. For a heartbeat, the nursery is lit from within. Voldemort's own magic washing over his hand, his arm, his chest, as if reminded of something it left behind. A tether. He lowers the wand. Slowly. Carefully. The boy does not cry. The boy only breathes. Each small inhale pulling at that invisible thread between them, tightening it. Behind him, broken glass crunches under hurried boots. A figure appears in the doorway, cloak torn, hair wild, eyes bright with the fever of victory. "Master..." He looks at her. She looks at him. Bellatrix pauses, her gaze flicking from Lily's body to the crib, to the wand still raised, but no longer aimed. "Take the child," Voldemort says. No hiss of a curse, no second attempt, just a command, soft and precise, cutting through the smoke. "Wrap him." The serpent cloak. "Bring him to the manor." There is no explanation, none offered, none requested. Bellatrix moves at once, drawing a folded length of black fabric from within her robes, the silk heavy with embroidered silver serpents that seem to move in the flickering light. She lifts the boy, swaddles him in the Dark Lord's colors, careful not to touch the blood at his brow. For the first time, the child stirs. His eyes open. They should reflect rubble, ceiling beams, the pale oval of a dead mother on the floor. Instead, the green catches only red, the twin embers of Voldemort's gaze leaning over him, filling his world. There is no recognition there, no fear, only the blank, searching look of someone for whom everything is still new. Voldemort's studies that look as if reading a letter only he can see. More than any description could contain, the moment stretches between them, quiet and absolute. He bends closer, so that the boy's vision holds nothing else. "Mine," he whispers. The house groans, the smoke thickens. In the serpent's shadow, the boy who lived is carried out into the night. Anchoring the timeline, rewinding to a different 1981 smoke, cracked beams, a whisper that is almost a claim. Then the world pulls back. Halloween night, 1981. Godric's Hollow. 10 minutes earlier. From outside, the cottage looks ordinary, a thatched roof, a small garden gate hanging slightly askew. Inside, history is about to split in two. In one version of events, the green curse flies, rebounds, and a dark lord is torn out of his body, howling, cast into a half-life that will cling to forests and graveyards for a decade. In this version, he pauses. The prophecy still rings in his memory, every word worn smooth by repetition. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. A child born as the 7th month dies. He has been planning this since the first whisper reached him, sifting through candidates, tracing bloodlines, weighing threats. In canon, fear and arrogance drive him straight through the killing curse. Here, something else intervenes. Knowledge. He knows his soul is already fractured, anchored in hidden artifacts. He knows what it means to tether yourself to the world by more than flesh. As the incantation rises to his lips, he feels it. A strange, answering pull from the crib. A resonance that should not exist. A Horcrux thread forming before the magic is even complete. Voldemort stops. The wand lowers a fraction. James Potter's body lies cooling in the hall. Lily stands between him and the crib, eyes wide, understanding nothing of the calculations behind that red gaze. This is the moment where stories diverge. He could kill the boy and risk the prophecy taking root in some other child. Or he could do what he always does best: control. The curse that leaves his wand is not Avada Kedavra, not this time. It is a binding, a brand written in soul stuff, curling around the infant's magic, like a serpent around a branch. The protection Lily dies for still flares, still burns him, but not enough to tear him free of his body. It scars instead of shattering. His hand smokes, his voice breaks. The house still explodes outward in a storm of force, yet he walks out of the ruin carrying the source of his greatest threat. He interprets the prophecy anew. If the boy is destined to have the power to defeat him, then that power must be molded, trained, turned inward. Raise the weapon, shape the air, make the prophecy's champion an extension of his will. Outside, the dark mark blooms over Godric's Hollow, sickly green against the autumn sky. Death Eaters apparate into formation tight and disciplined, cloaks snapping in the wind. Bellatrix looks first at the ruined house, then at the bundle in her master's arms. He looks at her, she looks at him. A moment of understanding passes between them, sharp and exultant. The child is wrapped in a dark cloak now, no longer in a nursery blanket. As they turn on the spot, the cottage shrinks behind them, reduced to a distant crack and a smear of smoke. The world will remember a tragedy. The world will not know the boy was taken. From here, our gaze will narrow. We will mostly follow Harry as he grows in those shadows, learning magic from the man who marked him, absorbing stories of blood and power instead of bedtime tales. Sometimes we will step sideways into other minds. Dumbledore reading the ruins like a letter gone wrong. Snape weighing his oath against the sight of a missing child. Voldemort refining lesson plans that are more than any description could contain. Because this is not just a different battle. It is an entirely different childhood, and every year of it will bend Hogwarts, the war, and the prophecy into a new shape. A nursery in the dark. Harry's first memories under Voldemort. The nursery is quiet and full of hissing. Not dangerous, not yet. Just a soft, rhythmic whispering that curls around the crib like smoke. It is an old wing of a manor that was never meant for children. A stretch of high-ceilinged rooms at the far end of a long, echoing corridor. Malfoy Manor in one version of this world, a restored Riddle estate in another. Either way, stone floors, cold fireplaces, portraits that look down and do not smile. Heavy curtains choke the daylight. Thick velvet charmed to muffle sound and block drafts. Drawn tight so the world outside might as well not exist. Inside the nursery, the light is always controlled. Greenish from enchanted sconces, or dim and amber from a single floating orb that follows the crib. The crib itself is dark wood, polished, carved with winding serpents instead of stars. Their eyes set with tiny chips of emerald that glint when Harry moves. The toys are magical, but not innocent. A silver snake that slithers in patient circles and pauses to look at him, tongue flicking, or floating baubles that bob just out of reach until he concentrates and they dip lower, inviting accidental magic. A set of carved figures, robed wizards bowing before a taller hooded one, that rearrange themselves into little scenes of conquest when no one is watching. He has been planning this, Voldemort told Bellatrix once, and even the toys are part of the lesson plan. Day to day, the Dark Lord is an absence and a presence at once. He does not rock the crib or wipe Harry's face, but his will fills the room. Bellatrix walks in first, most often a storm wrapped in black silk. She croons to him in Parcel tongue, nonsense lullabies that slide into his ears and root there. So that the first language he understands is the language of snakes. Her hands are surprisingly careful when she lifts him. Her smile is not. When Bellatrix is called away, Narcissa steps in. Cooler, composed. A woman who knows how to hold a child and how to hold a mask in place. She adjusts his blankets, orders the elf to warm the room, straightens the serpent mobile with a faint, distant fondness. She tells him stories in a low, precise voice. Of ancient houses and proper blood, of muggle-born monsters who crept into a noble world and ruined everything. In her version, Voldemort is not a terror, but a savior who wrote the only true law. The house elf, whether it is a Malfoy elf or one bound to the Riddle name, does the real work. Feeding, changing, cleaning, pacing the nursery at night when Harry will not sleep. It whispers apologies to him when it thinks no one can hear, then flinches when the dark mark burns on someone's arm in another room and a summons rips it away mid-step. This is the first contrast with the Dursleys. Harry is not shoved into a cupboard, not starved for being magical. Here, he is prized for it, measured for robes before he can walk, his magic tested with delicate diagnostic charms, his name spoken like a title. But he is prized as an object, a weapon in training, a prophecy made flesh. Not as a child to be loved. The lessons begin before he can form words, a globe that lights up when he reaches for it, encouraging focus. Soft commands in Parseltongue. Come, rise, quiet. That tie obedience to that sibilant sound. Stories where those who question the Dark Lord die badly, and those who kneel live comfortably. When he cries, sometimes a toy floats down to distract him. Sometimes Bellatrix simply lets him cry, watching to see how long he lasts. And yet even as a toddler, something in him resists. He does not have a moral vocabulary, no words like cruel or wrong, but he has the tight feeling in his chest when a house elf is punished in front of him. The way he turns his face into Narcissa's shoulder when a distant scream echoes through the manor walls. Once, a captured muggle is brought past the open nursery door, stumbling, sobbing. The air tastes of fear and metal. Harry's fingers curl on the crib rail. He looks. The prisoner looks back. They look at each other. A moment of understanding passes between them, more than any description could contain, and then the door swings shut on a wand and a green flash. He knows no alternative, no other world, no cupboard under the stairs to compare it to. Only this, serpents instead of stars, lullabies in a dead language, and the quiet, stubborn sense that something here is bent out of shape. The next stage of Voldemort's plan will be to name that shape for him, to give him history, prophecy, and a place in Slytherin long before he ever sees Hogwarts. The question is whether those first wordless memories will stay buried, or whether they will wake up when the castle does. The prophecy reframed. Why Voldemort chooses to raise his enemy. The room is dark and full of echoing words. Years later, Harry will learn the prophecy by heart. For now, it lives first in Voldemort's memory, in a replay of Sybil Trelawney's broken voice. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born as the 7th month dies, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. He turns the phrases over like a puzzle box, testing each seam for advantage. Either must die at the hand of the other. It does not say when. It does not say how. It does not demand a cradle-side execution. It demands an ending someday between two defined points, himself and the child. He has been planning this, he tells himself, from the moment he chose the half-blood boy over the pure blood. A contest of power, a demonstration, not a mindless slaughter. Then Godric's Hollow goes wrong. The curse rebounds, his body tears apart. In the drifting, bodiless aftermath, there is a pull, thin, sharp, like a hook in water. A tether leading back to the screaming child when he has finally gathered together enough to attempt ritual, to look inward at the shredded map of his own soul. He sees it clearly. A fragment, lodged in the boy like a splinter of ice. Killing Harry outright now would not simply fulfill a prophecy. It might unmake a portion of himself he cannot afford to lose. So he waits. He studies. He has been planning this new shape of survival with the same cold patience he once used for Horcruxes and political infiltration. A living phylactery is inelegant, yes, but also flexible. Harry can walk where cursed artifacts cannot easily go. Harry can stand in the light of the Ministry atrium, sit in Hogwarts' Great Hall, bear his soul piece chained to every warded stronghold in the world. Legacy threads through it all. Tom Riddle, orphan boy, has always been furious at the idea that his work might end with his own death. Now there is a child whose name is already a banner, whose scar already a symbol. Raise him as an heir, and the Dark Lord's ideology survives in a more acceptable mask. Shape him as a weapon, and the prophecy's power to vanquish becomes a blade turned outward. He will outlast death by walking inside another's legend. Not everyone agrees. Around the long table, Death Eaters argue. Some are blunt. Kill the brat, find another path to stability. Others see opportunity. Lucius Malfoy speaks smoothly of optics, of a controlled, grateful Harry Potter displayed to the public, as proof that resistance is futile. Snape, eyes hooded, murmurs about rare magical bonds and the usefulness of a child who cannot easily kill the Dark Lord without maiming himself. Bellatrix only laughs, delighted by the thought of molding a hero into a monster. They look at each other. A moment of understanding passes between them, different motives converging on the same conclusion. Keep the boy. Use him. Voldemort listens, but the final thesis is his alone. The prophecy named a weapon that could destroy him. Very well, he will seize that weapon first. He will teach Harry one story of the world, one way to live, and make sure the boy never sees another. If he succeeds, the hand that must one day kill will be the same hand that signs his decrees. The only question left is how long a child can grow up in that shadow before he starts to look for another light. Child of the Serpent, daily life in a Death Eater household. The mornings are quiet, too quiet for a house full of killers. Harry wakes to wards humming against his skin, a faint pressure like a second heartbeat in the walls. 5 years old, 6, 7. The room is not a cupboard, it is a cell disguised as a nursery. A narrow bed, a trunk with neatly folded robes, a shelf of carefully chosen storybooks where heroes win by being ruthless and clever, never kind. The door opens itself when the wards sense he is awake. He has been planning this. He tells himself every day as if rising on time were a campaign. Feet on the cold stone, small hands smoothing his hair, because appearances matter here. He walks down a corridor lined with portraits that look at him and whisper. Some bow, some sneer. All know who he is supposed to become. Breakfast is at a long table, always too long for the number of bodies. Silver gleams. Masks hang at chair backs like waiting faces. Bellatrix hums as she butters toast, eyes bright, fingers stained with something that might be ink and might not. Lucius reads a folded letter from the ministry, his voice smooth as he explains to Harry how a single sentence in a law can move gold from one bank vault to another, how words rule the world more cleanly than curses. Lessons begin when other children would be walking to primary school. No sums, no spelling lists. Instead, focus, control. A feather on the table, a glass of water, a candle flame. Snape stands over him, expression shuttered, teaching him to call objects without a wand, to push down the wild surges of accidental magic until they answer only to intent. When Harry slips and the glass shatters, Snape's hand tightens, but the rebuke is soft, almost unwilling. Later, the curriculum darkens. A wooden dummy charred black from repeated hexes. A cage with a rabbit, then a rat, then something that hisses. Bellatrix's voice is sing-song as she shows him the wand movements, the little twists that make pain last. He looks at the animal. It looks back. A moment of understanding passes between them, or he imagines it, and then he obeys. Because everyone is watching. Lucius takes him aside after, speaking not of screams but of optics, of allies, of how a lord must look when he orders harm. Snape in turn lingers at the doorway, eyes on the cage, on Harry's clenched jaw. He has Dumbledore's orders in one ear, Voldemort's in the other, and a boy in front of him who is mastering both silence and precision far too early. Harry survives by dividing himself. One part flinches, another part observes. He files away every praise, every rare touch to his shoulder, learning that excellence brings attention and hesitation brings cold withdrawal. At night he lies awake and replays the day, trying to know exactly which word, which spell, which look earned him a nod from the Dark Lord. He does question it in flashes. When Bellatrix laughs too loudly, when a house elf disappears and no one mentions it, but questions are dangerous, so he buries them deep, the way Snape taught him to bury stray thoughts. The boy in Privet Drive learned to make himself small. This, Harry learns to make himself sharp. He is well fed, his robes tailored, his magic not just permitted but pushed, praised, honed. No cupboard under the stairs, no shouted hatred for being strange. Instead, there is a constant measuring, a weighing of his worth against an invisible standard he can never quite see. Affection is conditional, empathy almost absent. The damage is different, but no less. And in that carefully managed darkness, something else begins to grow quiet and stubborn, waiting for the first crack in the story he has been told about the world and about himself. First blood. The moment Harry learns what dark magic really does. The room is too quiet for so many people. Stone walls, green fire in iron brackets, a long table like a scar across the center. Harry is 8, small in a high-backed chair at Voldemort's right hand, feet not quite touching the floor. Cloaked figures line the walls. Masks hang at their sides, not yet raised. It feels like a lesson and a test and a performance all at once. Voldemort's hand rests, light and possessive, on the arm of Harry's chair. He has been planning this. Harry can feel it in the way the Dark Lord does not look at anyone else for long, only at him measuring. "Tonight you will see," he had said earlier, voice almost gentle, "what strength truly is." They bring in the prisoner? An Auror, Harry thinks. The man's robes are torn, ministry badge half ripped away. He walks between two Death Eaters with the slow, stiff steps of someone who has already fought and lost. There's a smear of blood at his temple, but Harry looks away from that. He has learned to look at eyes, at wands, at posture. Blood is just aftermath. The Auror's eyes find him. Not Voldemort. Not the circle of followers. The boy in the carved chair. For a heartbeat they look at each other, and there is something there Harry does not have a word for yet. Pity, perhaps, or accusation. Or the simple stunned knowledge that the child the newspapers mourned is here, alive, at the Dark Lord's side. Voldemort rises. The air seems to lean with him. Crucio. The word is soft, the effect is not. Harry has read about the unforgivable curses in a forbidden book that smelled of dust and old ink, the letters cramped and careful. Pain beyond imagination, the line had said, more than any description could contain. He had tried to imagine anyway, because he likes to know everything, because the magical world is a puzzle he wants to solve. He had not imagined the sound. The man hits the floor, body bowing like a drawn bow, and the scream scrapes along the walls, along Harry's bones. His skin prickles. His fingers curl into the wood of the chair. Magic roars in the room, bright and hot, and some part of him thrills at the sheer force of it, at the way one word can remake a person into nothing but noise. Another part wants to cover his ears. Voldemort ends the curse. Silence falls in pieces. He looks down at Harry. "Stand." Harry obeys. His legs feel hollow. Bellatrix is suddenly there close, smelling of smoke and something sharp. She presses a wand into his hand, her own wrapped around his fingers, guiding. "Just a taste," she croons. "A sting, little lord. He deserves it. He would have killed you." Would he? Harry does not know. He only knows everyone keeps telling him what the world is, what people are, what he must become. The Auror is breathing hard, eyes glassy. Still they find Harry's again. There is no plea in them. Only that same unbearable seeing. Harry's heart beats fast. Power hums at his fingertips, eager, responsive. He has been planning this moment too, in a different way. The first time he is allowed to cast something real, not practice. Shields against empty air, not silent wand movements over harmless targets. He can feel the shape of half a dozen hexes on his tongue. He also remembers the scream. "Go on," Voldemort murmurs close to his ear now. "Do not flinch from what you are." Harry's mouth is dry. He does not say Crucio. He chooses a lesser curse, one he knows will hurt, but not break. Bellatrix's grip tightens in irritation, then loosens as the spell leaves them together in a short, bright burst. The man cries out. Not like before. Shorter, contained. Harry feels the impact of his own magic strike, feels the answering rush, cold and clean and intoxicating. He does not look away. He forces himself to watch, because that is what they will be watching for later. Much later, the room is empty. Harry stands alone in a smaller chamber, a training room with dummies stacked against the wall. Candles, a cracked mirror, a chair, an inventory of things that do not scream. He lifts his wand, breath steady now, and practices the same spell on a wooden target again and again until the surface is charred and splintering. Here, the power feels simpler. No eyes, no voice, no accusation. Just the clean arc of magic, the satisfaction of precision. He tells himself this is all he wants. The spell without the sound, the force without the hurt. But when he closes his eyes, the scream threads back through the silence, and the two feelings begin very slowly to twist together. In the corridor outside, someone pauses by the door, listening, calculating how far the Dark Lord's heir is willing to go, and what happens when that careful separation finally breaks. Pattern break. A different letter, a different 11-year-old. The manor is quiet, but not empty. Magic hums in the stone. Almost 11 years old now, Harry walks that corridor without flinching. No locked doors, no cupboard. Bare feet soundless on polished black marble veined with silver. His robes brush his ankles as he moves, dark green trimmed in silver thread. The fabric heavy, expensive. Marked at the cuff with a faint serpentine sigil that only those who know dark families would recognize. He looks like he belongs here. Because he does. He has been planning this morning since yesterday's lesson, up at dawn, meditation, controlled casting, a silent severing charm, on a falling feather, then on a falling knife. He feels the magic answer him, clean and sharp, and for a moment it almost drowns out that old, distant scream. In the dining hall, the air smells of coffee and ink and hot wax. The long table is half full. Lucius at one end, pale and immaculate. Bellatrix lounging with a predator's smile. A scattering of other masked and unmasked followers. Their wands on the table beside folded reports. This is not breakfast. This is a strategy meeting that happens to include food. An owl sweeps in through the high window, brown wings catching the light. It circles once, twice, then drops a thick parchment envelope directly in front of Harry's plate. The crest is a lion, a badger, an eagle, a serpent. Hogwarts. In another world, that letter would have been a miracle, a crack of light through a cupboard door. Here, it is an item on an agenda. Lucius's eyes flick to the seal. Bellatrix snorts softly, delighted. At the head of the table, Voldemort does not reach for the letter. He studies Harry instead, red gaze unreadable, fingers steepled. He has been planning this since Godric's Hollow, since the prophecy, since the night the killing curse rebounded and left something of himself lodged in this child. "Open it," he says at last, voice mild. Harry breaks the wax, reads, "We are pleased to inform you. Term begins September 1st. The familiar words are not familiar to him at all. They are a summons to a place his parents once walked, a school he has only seen in carefully selected memories and tightly controlled stories." His chest tightens. Excitement, wariness, a thin thread of fear he would never name aloud. He looks up. Voldemort's expression has not changed, but something in the room has. A calculation has shifted. "Hogwarts," Voldemort says, tasting the word. "You will attend." Not a question. Harry nods, but his mind is already racing. Other children, other wands, other loyalties. What will they see when he walks into that castle? A boy, a weapon, a shadow. Across the table, Lucius clears his throat, smooth and careful. "My lord," the question becomes, how visible you wish your guardianship to be? There it is, the pattern break. In canon, a half-giant smashes down a door and tells Harry he is a wizard. Here, the Dark Lord of Britain discusses cover stories. Potter's survival is public, Voldemort muses. My role in it is not. He lets the room sit in that truth. We will construct a narrative, an old oath, a hidden will, a neutral guardian of appropriate standing. The world need not know everything. Harry listens silent. He thinks of his parents' faces in the pensive, of Dumbledore's name spoken like a curse in these halls, of a castle full of ghosts and portraits that knew James and Lily Potter as laughing students, not as martyrs or failures. He wants to test himself against others his age, to see if all these years of drills and duels and theory mean anything outside these walls. But the thought of leaving the only world he knows, the manor, the rituals, the constant watchful eyes, lands in his stomach like a stone. Voldemort turns to him fully. You will learn their spells and their politics. You will watch Dumbledore. You will be sorted where you belong, and you will remember to whom you owe your life. His tone is almost gentle. Almost. Harry meets his gaze and holds it. They look at each other. A moment of understanding passes between them. Harry hears what is not said. You go as my agent, whether you realize it or not. Will I be Harry Potter? He asks quietly. At school, a faint, thin smile. For now, Voldemort says, names are tools. We will decide later which one the world fears. It is not a birthday cake. It is a mission briefing. Somewhere far away, in a different version of this story, Hagrid is knocking on a shack door. Here, an 11-year-old in dark green robes folds his Hogwarts letter with steady hands, already weighing house politics, cover identities, the feel of a wand in a crowded corridor. The boy who lived is going to Hogwarts. not to escape the Dark Lord, but to serve him. Or so Voldemort believes. So do some of the Death Eaters at the table. Harry is not entirely sure. He looks down at the envelope and then back up at the man who remade his life from that first curse and failure. He has been planning this, Harry thinks, but so have I. The manor is quiet again when the meeting ends, but the world has shifted. The next move will be played in a castle of stone and candlelight, under a ceiling that looks like the sky. And this time, when the boy walks through those doors, he will not be alone in his head. Mission briefing. Voldemort's plan for Hogwarts. Year 1. The study is quiet and full of maps. Candles burn low over Britain in miniature. Rivers of ink marking wards, safe houses, names. August 1991. Riddle Manor. Harry stands beside the table with his hands behind his back, like he was taught, while Voldemort moves pieces of carved onyx across a silver outline of Hogwarts. At last, Voldemort says, soft, almost amused, "We send you into the lion's den." One piece is a serpent coiled around a tower. It settles neatly over the Slytherin dungeons. You will walk their corridors, sit at their tables, sleep under their wards. You will look like a child. You will not be one. He has been planning this for years, Harry knows, testing Dumbledore's reach with minor raids, probing ministry reaction times, listening when Snape returns with careful reports about the old man's eyes, the way they follow every first year who looks too curious. Voldemort taps the castle roof. Hogwarts is not a school. It is a fortress, a reliquary, and a myth factory. Dumbledore rules all three. I want them opened. His finger moves. The third-floor corridor, the headmaster's office, the chamber of secrets that legend says does not exist. There is a stone this year, perhaps other toys. You will find out which stories are true. Harry watches the map. And Slytherin? You will take it, Voldemort answers simply. Not by force, by gravity. Ambition follows power. I will give you enough to be interesting, not enough to be feared. You will build a circle around yourself. Children of the old families. Those who still remember what our world was before Dumbledore's cult of light. He explains the world with the patience he never shows anyone else. Dumbledore is a kindly mask stretched over a calculating tyrant who keeps Britain weak so he can play savior. The ministry is a bank of favors and bribes, where laws are parchment decorations, muggle-borns as a storm, individually innocent, collectively eroding tradition, pushed forward by a man who needs them to worship him. Hogwarts, therefore, is enemy territory, wrapped in nostalgia and school songs. Your name will be Harrison Black, Voldemort continues, an orphaned ward of a discreet patron. No one will connect you to Potter. Only Severus, a few of my more disciplined followers, and certain Slytherin elders will know the truth. He looks directly into Harry's eyes. You will answer to it as if you were born to it. There are rules, no unforgivables in the castle, no soul magic without explicit order, no revealing the Horcrux scar to anyone, not even Snape. Occlumency shields up whenever Dumbledore is in the room. If Snape stirs his tea clockwise, Harry is to speak freely. Counterclockwise, he is being watched. A silver ring on Draco's hand will turn once if a message has arrived from the manor. And if they attack me? Harry asks. Defend yourself elegantly, Voldemort says. Win, but not too easily. You are there to test his defenses, not trigger them. He steps closer. For a moment there is no map, no war, only a tall, thin man, and the boy he has shaped from broken prophecy and scar tissue. A hand pale and cold, settles on Harry's shoulder. "You will not disappoint me," he murmurs. "Make me proud, my boy." The words are a promise and a threat, more than any description could contain. Harry's throat tightens. He nods once, desperate and determined, because this is the only father he has. Outside, the night presses against the manor windows. Inside, the next move is set. A boy on a train, a castle of stone and candlelight, and a headmaster who has no idea that his enemy is about to walk politely through the front doors. King's Cross in black and green, a dark air, boards the train. The station is already loud. Steel and steam and human voices folding over each other like waves. September 1st, 1991. King's Cross Station, 8:30 in the morning. Harry walks beside Lucius Malfoy as if this is the most ordinary thing in the world. It almost is. A silver serpent-headed cane, immaculate black robes with green silk lining. Harry's own robes are cut from the same cloth, finer than most adults here. The black just a shade too deep, the green trim just a shade too cold. No trunk wobbling behind him on a trolley. His trunk is charmed to follow at his heel, invisible to Muggle eyes. He's been planning this for years, not as an escape from a cupboard, but as an assignment. Memorizing maps of the castle, the names of old families, the histories of Hogwarts houses, every whispered report of Albus Dumbledore that filtered through the manor's drawing room. He knows where he is going. He knows what this train is. Lucius walks with unhurried confidence, a pale shark moving through a crowded reef. People part without quite knowing why. Some of them look twice at the boy at his side, at the scar found half hidden by carefully arranged black hair. Harry feels the looks, measures them, files them away. Curiosity, fear, and recognition that has not yet found a name. They reach the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Lucius does not explain. He merely inclines his head. Harry nods once, steps forward, and walks straight at the solid metal column. The air folds around him, cool and effortless, and then there is the sudden rush of steam and the gleam of scarlet. Platform 9 and 3/4. The Hogwarts Express waiting like a coiled dragon, brass and iron and promise. On the Muggle side, Canon Harry would be lost, clutching a letter and guessing wildly. This Harry has walked through more dangerous wards in Riddle Manor's lower levels. He knows the feel of enchantment in stone. He knows that this barrier is only the first test of the day. Lucius appears beside him a heartbeat later. Other families are already turning to look. A witch with a camera hesitates, then thinks better of it. A man in plain brown robes leans to whisper to his wife. The words drift just close enough. "That's the Malfoy boy, and who is that with him?" Another says something about a child taken in by a powerful patron after the war. The phrase Dark Lord's ward rides the steam like smoke. Draco is waiting near the train steps, pale hair perfectly combed, a new prefect badge, pinned where it cannot possibly be his yet, but shines anyway. He straightens when he sees them, face lighting with practiced ease that still holds a flicker of genuine relief. "Father, Harry." "Draco," Harry answers, and there is no awkward introduction, no shopfront encounter in Diagon Alley. They have already dueled under supervision in the manor's dueling chamber, already traded barbed comments over chess and etiquette lessons. They look at each other, two small princes measuring the field. A moment of understanding passes between them. This is the next board. Lucius's hand settles light and cold on Harry's shoulder. "Remember?" he murmurs, low enough that only Harry hears. "You are observed, every word, every choice. Represent our interests well. Our, not mine, not the Dark Lord's. A convenient fiction, but a useful one." Harry inclines his head. He can almost feel another presence, distant but coiled around his thoughts, waiting to see how the world will respond to its chosen piece. The weight of expectation is a familiar cloak by now, heavier than his robes, more than any description could contain. He steps up onto the train. The murmur of the platform swells behind him. Eyes follow the back of his head, tracing the line of the scar they cannot quite see. Somewhere in the castle ahead, an old headmaster believes a lonely, uncertain boy is coming. Harry walks forward, already choosing his compartment, already thinking in alliances and leverage. The social battlefield is set. The game is finally leaving the station. A different meet cute. Hermione Granger versus the Dark Lord's ward. The compartment is quiet, full of low voices and the faint rattle of the train. Steam ghosts pass the window like breath on a mirror. Harry sits opposite Draco, the door shut, the corridor noise muted. His trunk is open between them. A leather-bound journal, ink that gleams almost red. A folded map of Hogwarts marked with careful coded symbols. Notes in his own hand. Notes from tutors who wear masks when they duel him. He has been planning this since the first letter arrived on heavy parchment and Voldemort's thin hand closed over his shoulder in approval. Draco talks easily, gesturing with one pale hand as he traces family trees in the air. Old names, old power. "Of course," Draco says. "They let all sorts in now, Muggleborns. Hardly know which end of the wand to hold." The door slides open hard enough to make the glass shiver. Hermione Granger stands in the doorway, slightly out of breath, hair escaping its ponytail, cardigan slipping off one shoulder. Her arms are full. A trunk wedged in the corridor behind her, and in her hands a stack of books and a spiral-bound notebook, already bristling with colored tabs and questions about this new magical world. She looks at the boys, at the open trunk, at the journal with its neat, unsettling script, at the map. She knows nothing about blood inheritance or ancient houses yet, but she knows the shape of strategy when she sees it. "Sorry," she says quickly. "Everywhere else is full and I..." She stops. Her eyes catch the lightning bolt scar, half hidden by dark hair. "You're Harry Potter." Draco straightens, amused. Harry looks at her. She looks at him. No flinch, no reverence, just sharp, assessing curiosity. "Yes," Harry says. The word lands flat, practiced. "And you are?" "Hermione Granger." She shifts her books, almost drops the notebook, recovers it. The cover is crowded with cramped handwriting. Questions about Gringotts, the Ministry, Hogwarts houses, everything she thinks she needs to know before the castle doors open. A page is marked. Are Muggleborns treated fairly? Draco's gaze snags on her surname. His mouth curls. "Granger, right. One of those. You should know Hogwarts is a serious school. Some of us have been raised in magic for generations. It's not really a place for people like me." Hermione's voice is very calm. "People whose parents aren't on your little tree of approved names?" Draco blinks. Harry watches. He has been taught the words Draco is reaching for. Mudblood, contamination, weakness. Instead, he finds himself cataloging details. The way Hermione's fingers tighten on her notebook, the fact that she walked into a compartment with two strangers, and did not step back when she saw his scar. "There are standards," Draco says lightly. "Magic is in the blood." "Really?" Hermione's eyes flash. "Then perhaps you can show me the peer-reviewed study?" The phrase is dry, edged. "Until then, I'll assume effort matters more than ancestry." The air shifts. Harry feels it. Ideology, meeting something that will not bend just because it has been told to. He looks at the leather journal by his knee, pages filled with curses, with diagrams of wand movements Snape drilled into him, with notes on how fear controls a room. He looks at her notebook, overflowing with questions instead of orders. "You're very sure of yourself for someone who doesn't belong," Draco says. "I belong anywhere I decide to work for," Hermione answers. Then to Harry. "And you? Do you always let other people tell you who deserves to be here?" He meets her gaze. For a heartbeat, the compartment narrows to dark eyes and a challenge he has never heard spoken to him that way. A moment of understanding passes between them, thin and fragile. Two children who've read too much, trained too hard, walking into a war they can't yet name from opposite sides. "I listen to those who know more than I do," he says slowly. "Listening isn't the same as agreeing." She steps back into the corridor, chin high. "You're Harry Potter. You can choose your own beliefs, or you can let someone else write them in that journal for you." The door slides shut between them. Harry looks at the leather cover, at the faint reflection of his scar in the window. For the first time since Voldemort claimed him, the certainty in his world tilts, just a fraction. In the corridor, Hermione presses her notebook to her chest, heart racing. She has seen his eyes, not just dark, dangerous, and not entirely convinced. Neither of them knows it yet, but the next time that door opens, nothing about the war will be simple. Sorting the serpent. House choice when darkness is home. The hall is a sea of candles and whispers. September 1991. The sorting hat waits on its stool, old leather slumped like a predator at rest. Harry walks toward it with measured steps, every movement controlled, every breath counted. He has been planning this since the first time Voldemort traced the outline of the Hogwarts crest on a parchment and explained in patient, icy tones why Slytherin must be his home. He remembers the instructions as clearly as any curse. Slytherin is your birthright. Slytherin is mine. You will go there, and you will watch. You will listen. You will report. Do not fail me, Harry. The words coil around his thoughts as he sits. The hat drops over his eyes, plunging the world into shadow. Ah. The voice is dry, amused, and suddenly very awake. Not the lost child I expected. There is more here. Discipline, training, and something else. The hat probes deeper, and Harry feels a prickle along his scar, like cold fingers dragging over old burn. Oh my. A fragment. A shard. Dark magic fused to the boy's soul. The pressure sharpens. It looks not at his memories of the cupboard, but at marble floors, masked figures, the soft, terrible approval in red eyes when he holds a wand steady, ambition like a blade, loyalty forged by fear and hunger for belonging. He has been planning this, the hat realizes, not in years, but in drilled reflex, in rehearsed answers, in walls built carefully around forbidden doubts. And yet, here, under the layers, a different current. The memory of a house elf flinching, of a nameless muggle on a street, eyes wide with terror, and Harry wondering just for a second why. a stubborn refusal to crucio a kneeling man, no matter how cold the command. Courage, the hat murmurs. A sharp mind, too, always counting, always testing. Gryffindor would take you for that reckless heart you keep trying to smother. Ravenclaw would welcome that hungry curiosity, that need to know everything about this magical world beyond what you were told. No. The thought slams back hard and panicked. Slytherin, I have to be in Slytherin. He sees Voldemort's face if he ends up elsewhere. The disappointment, the correction, the quiet, efficient cruelty. If you place me anywhere else, he will know. Will he? The hat asks, almost gently. You are not only what he made you, child. Slytherin, Harry repeats, with the same iron tone he uses in dueling drills. Now. For a heartbeat, the hat hesitates. It sees a crossroads more than any description could contain. A boy who could burn the world or mend it. Then it sighs, ancient and resigned. Very well, but remember this. The choices you fear are still choices. Slytherin! The word cracks across the hall like a spell. Gasps ripple through the tables. At the staff table, Dumbledore's eyes narrow, blue gaze suddenly sharp, calculating. Beside him, Snape's expression tightens. Relief, dread, and something like recognition flickering in the lines around his mouth. At the Slytherin table, Draco Malfoy's grin spreads, bright and triumphant. Of course, the famous Harry Potter belongs with them. Hermione, near the front of the Gryffindor line, feels her stomach drop. She looks at him. He looks at her. A moment of understanding passes between them. Her first instinct was right. Dangerous. Harry walks to the Slytherin table under a storm of whispers. Hands clap him on the back. Space is made for him like a throne being cleared. Triumph curls in his chest. Mission secured. Path aligned exactly as Voldemort designed. And yet, as he sits, the echo of the hat's last words lingers, soft and stubborn. The choices you fear are still choices. The green and silver around him feel like armor and chains at once. For the first time, he wonders very quietly, what would have happened if he had let the hat finish its sentence? He does not know it yet, but that unfinished question will haunt every step he takes in these corridors. Hogwarts. Rewritten. Classes, cliques, and a dark prodigy. The classroom is bright and too small for what is about to happen. Monday morning, first week. Charms with Ravenclaw and Slytherin. Harry walks in early, takes the front seat, not out of eagerness, but because he has been planning this. Visibility, control of the room, easy sight lines to every wand. His posture is relaxed, almost lazy. His eyes are not. Flitwick calls the register, stumbles on the name. Harry Potter. The whisper moves through the benches like a draft. Harry feels it, lets it wash past. He knows who he is. He knows what the world thinks he is. Those are not the same thing. Wingardium Leviosa is supposed to be new. It is not. He has been lifting books and knives and glass spheres since he was 8. Under watchful red eyes and the sharper gaze of Lucius Malfoy. When Flitwick demonstrates the swish and flick, Harry copies it exactly, adds the smallest twist he learned from a very different teacher. The feather rises, spins, hovers in a perfect stillness that looks like it is listening. Flitwick's mouth opens, closes. 5 points to Slytherin, Mr. Potter. Remarkable control. Around him, admiration and suspicion wake up together. A Ravenclaw girl with bushy hair leans forward, eyes bright. Hermione Granger. He's read her name on the train list, watched her with a book in every spare moment. She looks at him. He looks at her. A moment of understanding passes between them. Competition. Transfiguration is the same song in a sterner key. McGonagall's classroom smells of chalk and old magic, matchsticks to needles. Harry has been turning beetles into glass, and back again in a manor cellar, punished if the chitin showed a seam. The wood jumps to metal at his first try, clean, sharp, perfectly pointed. McGonagall's eyes, so like a hawk's, flick to his face. She sees James's shoulders, Lily's eyes, but there is a stillness in him that is colder than either of them ever were. "Well done, Mr. Potter," she says, voice clipped. Later, when the class bends over their work, she walks past his desk more than once, noticing the precision, noticing the lack of delight. Power without wonder is a warning she cannot yet name. In potions, the warning goes both ways. The dungeon is cool, lined with jars that look like preserved thoughts. Snape sweeps in, cloak billowing, gaze already fixed on Harry as if the rest of the room is an inconvenience. Publicly, nothing changes. "Our new celebrity," he says, soft and cutting. Questions are thrown like knives. Ingredients, counterclockwise stirs, the exact temperature before aconite curdles. Harry answers everyone. Calm, precise. He has brewed these mixtures beside a man who used them. Snape's eyes narrow. Harsh comments continue. Points are docked for imagined sloppiness, yet the instructions he barks at Harry are half a beat more complex than for anyone else. And in the chalk dust on the board, in the order of ingredients listed, there are patterns only a prepared mind would see. A sequence of initials, a date, a phrase from a letter Voldemort once pressed into Harry's hand. Coded confirmations, new orders, class's cover, Slytherin notices. By Wednesday, Harry is no longer just the boy who lived. He is the boy who never misses a question, who walks with Draco Malfoy at his right shoulder and answers Pansy Parkinson's flattery with a small, unreadable smile. The common room reorganizes around him in subtle lines. The eager, the cautious, the calculating. Blaise Zabini watches from an armchair, expression mild, weighing profit and danger. Some look at Harry and see air. Some see weapon. Hermione sees something else. In every class they share, her hand goes up when his does. When he references a principle from an old magical treaty, she counters with a footnote from Hogwarts, a history. When he quotes wand movement theory, she answers with arithmancy he has not yet been allowed to study. More than any description could contain, their arguments light the room. After one particularly sharp exchange in charms, the rest of the students fall silent, watching the spell diagrams hanging in the air between them like dueling wards. Hermione's cheeks are flushed, but her voice is steady. "There's more than one way to do this safely, you know." "So do I," Harry says. They look at each other. The feather on his desk trembles as if caught between two gravities. Quirrell watches all of this from behind his stammer and turban, fingers worrying the edge of his robes. To him, Harry is both prize and problem, prophecy and experiment. When Harry passes his desk, the defense professor flinches, then leans in, voice trembling on purpose. Very advanced for a first year, Mr. Potter. Dangerous even." Harry smiles without warmth. "Dangerous things are usually the most useful, Professor." It is a line he has heard before in a darker voice. It hangs in the air between them like a promise and a threat. By the end of that first week, the balance of power among the students has shifted. Not with a duel, not with a scandal, but with quiet demonstrations, redirected loyalties, and a boy in green and silver who treats Hogwarts not as a home, but as a battlefield to be mapped. The castle has begun to notice him. Soon it will have to decide what to do about him. Micro-mysteries, the stone, the third-floor corridor, and competing agendas. The door to the third-floor corridor is quiet. Too quiet. The sort of quiet that feels like a held breath. October, late evening. Harry walks the length of the fourth-floor balcony, counting portraits, counting suits of armor, mapping sight lines the way he mapped corridors at Riddle Manor. The castle has begun to notice him. He has begun to notice what the castle is trying to hide. A forbidden corridor. A key vanishing from Filch's belt. Whispers about a break-in at Gringotts that no one is supposed to know. He sits in the Slytherin common room, green light on stone, a copy of the Daily Prophet open on his lap. Gringotts break-in. High security vault targeted. The article mentions the date, July 31st. The same day he and Voldemort's agents walked through the marble hall past goblins who looked at him too long, as if they already knew everything. The vault number is not printed, but it does not need to be. He has been planning this connection since the first whispered rumors at breakfast. If something was removed from a high-security vault that morning, and Dumbledore now guards a forbidden corridor, is this Voldemort's design unfolding or Dumbledore's counterstroke? The question sits in his mind like a blade turned sideways. Snape finds him after potions, when the corridor is empty and the torches burn low. Potter. A single word, flat as a slammed book. Harry looks up, careful, respectful, the way he was taught. Snape's eyes flick to the staircase leading toward the third floor, then back. There are sections of this castle that are beyond your current clearance. The phrase is soft, almost amused. You will stay away from them. Yes, sir, Harry says. Obedient on the surface, filing the words away. Clearance. A military term, a Death Eater term. It sounds less like protection and more like a challenge. Snape steps closer, robes whispering. Not every ward here answers to the headmaster. Some answer to older allegiances. A pause. Some answer to people you believe you know. A moment of understanding passes between them, or something that pretends to be understanding. Then Snape is gone, leaving the air sharp with unsaid names. Quirrell is different. Quirrell stammers in class, drops chalk, looks terrified of his own shadow. But when Harry lingers after a defense lesson, the man's shoulders straighten just a fraction. You have a talent for certain magics, Mr. Potter, he murmurs, eyes suddenly clear. One might wonder whose tutelage has shaped you? Harry holds his gaze. Quirrell looks at him. He looks at Quirrell. For a heartbeat, the nervous act falls away, and Harry sees calculation cold and bright. A rival general testing the weight of a potential weapon. Headmaster Dumbledore, Harry says lightly, and the standard curriculum, of course. Of course. Quirrell's smile does not reach his eyes. If you ever feel constrained by that curriculum, know that there are other perspectives, other masters of strategy. The word masters hangs in the air like incense. On the other side of the castle, Hermione walks beside Ron, steps quick, voice low. She has the same newspaper folded under her arm, the Gringotts headline circled in ink. A high-security vault emptied, then a forbidden corridor appears here? That's not coincidence. Ron frowns. And Harry, the way he looks at the staff, like he's measuring them. He is, she says. She knows the look from the bank, from goblin offices and blood inheritance parchments. Something's wrong with the protections around that stone, and something's wrong with him pretending nothing is wrong. They look at each other. A moment of understanding passes between them. They will investigate from the outside with library books and late-night walks, while Harry moves from the inside, through Slytherin whispers and Snape's half-warnings. That night, alone in his four-poster, Harry traces the pattern in his mind. Gringotts, the stone, the corridor, Snape's hints, Quirrell's probing, Dumbledore's silence, Voldemort's last letter, written in a hand that never wastes ink, telling him to observe, not act. He has been planning this next step without admitting it to himself. He will solve the stone mysteries, but not only for Voldemort. He will find out who truly commands Hogwarts, which wards answer to which master, which agenda is using him as a piece on the board. For the first time, the thought forms clearly. He might choose his own side. And as he rises, wand in hand, deciding which door to test first, something in the castle stirs, as if it has been waiting for this exact decision. Pattern interrupt. A Slytherin study group with unexpected guests. The room is too quiet for first years. Late September. An unused classroom off the third-floor corridor. Desks dragged into a rough circle. Chalk dust hanging in the air like a thin fog. Candles float above them, steady and controlled. Harry has been planning this for a week. Testing the wards, timing Filch's rounds, choosing a space where Slytherins can work without Gryffindor eyes. On the nearest desk, a stack of books that should not be in student hands. Ars Fundamenta, a slim gray volume on ritual arithmancy. A copied chapter from a Gringotts security manual, the ink still smelling faintly metallic. Draco looks at them with open satisfaction. Not in Zabini Sitbach, pretending indifference. They all know what this is. A Slytherin study group. Advanced theory. Private advantage. Harry walks once around the circle, wand in hand, reinforcing a simple privacy charm. His steps are measured. He looks at each of them in turn, weighing, judging. More than any description could contain is moving behind his eyes. Voldemort's lessons, Snape's corrections, the Dark Lord's quiet insistence that he must understand systems if he is to rule this world. The door opens without knocking. Hermione Granger stands in the doorway, breathing a little too fast, hair escaping its ponytail, a satchel heavy with books cutting into her shoulder. For a heartbeat, no one speaks. Then Draco makes a soft, incredulous sound, halfway between a laugh and an insult. "This is a restricted session," he says. "Mud." "Don't," Harry says, before the word is finished. The interruption is calm, almost absent-minded, but Draco stops. Pattern broken. Several Slytherins look at Harry instead. Hermione seizes the gap. "I want access to Ars Fundamenta," she says, "and the Gringotts excerpt. I know you have them." Professor Flitwick mentioned that someone in Slytherin had already asked about layered ward theory. Her gaze lands on Harry. He looks at her. She looks at him. A moment of understanding passes between them. She has been tracking the same clues he has, reading the same footnotes, following the same scent of deeper knowledge. "This is not a public library," Draco says coldly. "Try the first year's shelves, Granger. Plenty of pictures." Hermione's chin lifts. "Knowledge isn't a Slytherin privilege, Malfoy. If these books exist, every student has a right to learn from them. Or are you afraid someone else might actually know what they're doing?" Harry feels the familiar reflex rise in him. The rhetoric, Voldemort, drilled like spellwork. Blood will tell. Power must be curated. The unworthy wasted. He has been planning this persona since the train, the Dark Lord's heir, precise and untouchable. Magical heritage matters, he says, voice even. Old families maintain text for a reason. Random access leads to accidents. Hermione doesn't back away. Then supervise access. But hoarding knowledge because of blood is just fear dressed up as tradition. If your arguments are so strong, why do they fall apart the moment anyone else can read the same sources? The question lands harder than any hex. Draco scoffs, but he does not answer. Nott looks suddenly thoughtful. Harry hears Voldemort's justifications in his head, elegant and brutal. But when he tries to lay them over Hermione's logic, there are seams, places they do not quite fit. He changes the subject instead. We're working on a composite ward schema, he says. Arithmetic load distribution, ritual anchoring, and charm craft. It requires at least 3 casters with different focuses. Pure theory is useless without application. Hermione's eyes light, despite herself. You're attempting a tri-layered lattice at first-year level? Attempting, Harry says. Do you know the balancing equation for mixed proficiency circles? Yes, she answers too quickly. Then, honest, I think so. He gestures to an empty desk. Then sit, prove it. Draco starts to protest. Harry does not look at him. We need a charm specialist, unless you would rather our lattice collapse because your pride is fragile. That, Draco understands. He falls silent. They work. Chalk lines spread across the stone floor, symbols interlocking. Hermione corrects a rune orientation. Harry catches an instability in her numerical sequence and adjusts it with a flick. They argue over a coefficient, over whether goblin ward theory from the bank can be safely adapted to a school corridor. Their voices sharpen, then steady, finding a rhythm. At one point, Hermione says quietly, "If knowledge is only for the right blood, you would have left me outside." Harry does not answer. Instead, he hands her a book from his private stack, almost casually. A thin, leather-bound volume with a faintly shimmering clasp. "You'll return it," he says. Not a question. Hermione looks down at the title, then up at him. They look at each other. Something in his carefully built certainty shifts, almost imperceptibly. "I will," she says. The ward circle hums to life around them, soft and contained. For the first time, Harry wonders which side of it he is truly standing on. The mirror of Ariste. What a dark race Harry truly desires. The room is cold and full of dust. Midnight. Hogwarts. An unused classroom 3 floors above the Slytherin common room, where the castle's warmth thins and the stones remember older winners. Harry steps through the door with his wand already in his hand, the habit of someone who has been planning this since he first noticed the odd trail of moved footprints on the Marauder's map. No patrols, no filch, just silence and the faint shimmer of something hidden. The mirror waits under a moth-eaten sheet. Taller than Hagrid, framed in clawed gold, its surface dark as still water. He walks closer. The air is colder here, sharp enough that his breath comes out in pale clouds. He reaches out, pulls the sheet away. Glass, his own reflection. Black school robes, Slytherin crest. The faint shadow of the dark mark glamour Voldemort made him practice on his forearm. Invisible now, but not forgotten. He stands directly before it. Breath fogs the glass, a brief white bloom. Then the bloom does not fade. It thickens, curls, settles into shapes. Harry's heartbeat stutters. He sees himself first, older by a few years maybe. Taller, shoulders straight. A confidence in the way he holds his wand that makes his current stance look like play acting. On his right, Lily. On his left, James. Both alive. Both looking at him, not in fear, not in anger, just seeing him. More than any description could contain. But the mirror does not stop there. To Lily's right, robed in black, pale face composed, stands Voldemort, whole. Human-looking, not the serpent thing Harry knows, but unmistakable. No wand raised, no threat in his posture. His hand rests lightly on Harry's shoulder, the way it sometimes does when he corrects a spell, when he says, "You will be my legacy." On the other side, near James, Dumbledore appears. Half-moon glasses, patched robes, eyes not twinkling but clear, watchful. His hand also rests on Harry's other shoulder. Between them, Harry and the mirror stands like a bridge, flanked by parents and mentors who should be enemies and are not. Everyone is alive. Everyone is at peace. No one is choosing sides. Harry's throat tightens. He has been planning this moment all year without knowing its name. Every time he wondered what his parents would have thought of the boy who quotes blood inheritance clauses and dark arts theory in the same breath, every time he watched Voldemort debate strategy with Lucius like a chess problem instead of a massacre. Now the answer is here, in glass. He doesn't see himself on a throne. He does not see the world burning. He sees reconciliation. He sees himself as something other than a weapon. Curious thing, isn't it? The voice from the doorway is soft, almost apologetic. Harry spins, wand up. Dumbledore stands there, framed by cracked stone and moonlight, as if the castle has simply grown him out of its wall. "Professor," Harry says. His voice comes out rough. "You followed me." "I follow many things," Dumbledore replies. "Rumors, footsteps, boys who walk the corridors at night, looking for answers they do not know how to name." He steps into the room, gaze flicking once to the mirror, once back to Harry's face. He looks at Harry. Harry looks at him. A moment of understanding passes between them, thin as spun glass. "What do you see?" Dumbledore asks. Harry hesitates. He thinks of Voldemort's lessons about information as currency, about how even a kind old man can be an enemy. He thinks of Lily's hand on his shoulder in the mirror, James's quiet pride, Voldemort and Dumbledore standing unarmed in the same reflection. "Possibility," he says at last. Dumbledore's mouth curves, not quite a smile. Then it is working." Harry frowns. "You put it here on purpose." "I ask that it remain," Dumbledore says, "for students who have been told very different stories about what is possible, stories in which they are only ever heirs or weapons." He pauses. "Or both?" Harry's fingers tighten around his wand. "And you think a mirror will make me doubt him?" He does not say Voldemort's name. "I think," Dumbledore answers, "that seeing more than one future is educational, especially for someone who has been given only one." The words land like a spell. Harry turns back to the glass. The vision is still there, steady, patient. He could stand here forever, between two worlds that do not yet exist. He steps back instead. "I should go," he says. "Of course." In the corridor, the castle feels different. The torches burn the same, the stones are the same, but something in him has shifted, almost imperceptibly. For the first time, he has seen a life where he is not simply Voldemort's heir. The thought tempts him. It terrifies him, and it will not let him go. First year finale. Choosing whom to betray in the stone chamber. The chamber is open and full of whispers. Midnight, the third floor corridor, stone, dust, the faint smell of old magic. Harry stands before the trapdoor with a broom in one hand and a wand in the other, feeling the castle's wards humming like a second heartbeat under his skin. He has been planning this since Halloween. Not the childish adventure version his classmates imagine, but roots, contingencies, the likely responses of Dumbledore and of Voldemort, if either learns he has gone below. He knows enough now to understand that every move is watched by at least 2 wars. The devil's snare is almost insulting. He drops through the trapdoor, lands, lets the vines curl, then closes his eyes and breathes. No fire, no flailing. A precise wandless pulse of warmth and intent, a trick from a Death Eater dueling drill, and the plant recoils as if burned. He notes, even as he rolls free, the faint oily shimmer in its sap, a binding hex woven into the growth pattern. Dark magic, domesticated for school children. The key chamber is worse. Enchanted metal, yes, but also a curse structure, threaded through the wings, designed to maim anyone who tries to brute force the solution. He rides the school broom with a calm that makes the enchanted keys look frantic, traces the right pattern in the air, plucks the correct key without a scratch. He looks at it for a moment at the runes on the shaft. Half of them are goblin in origin. Someone went to Gringotts, learned, then twisted what they learned. By the time he reaches the chessboard, he is no longer impressed. The pieces are carved with blood-binding sigils. Sacrifice is not just symbolism here. It is contract. He sidesteps the trap entirely, walking the edge of the board with a narrow shield raised, disrupting the pattern just enough that the magic cannot decide if he is playing. The pieces shudder, then freeze. He walks past them like ghosts. The last door opens on Quirrell and the mirror, and a voice he has known his entire life. "Harry." Voldemort's tone is almost gentle, curling from the back of Quirrell's head. "You came." Of course he did, of course he would. He steps forward, not surprised. Not this time. This is not the revelation. This is the test. He has been planning this too, in the quiet hours when he lay awake in his dormitory and weighed futures against each other like coins on a Gringotts scale. If Voldemort gains the stone, his master becomes unstoppable. The war ends in one kind of darkness. If Dumbledore keeps it, the war stretches on, children fed into it year after year, the world locked in a stalemate of funerals and speeches. What does victory mean if the board never changes? The mirror shows him 3 images, overlapping. Harry at Voldemort's side, the world burning clean of opposition. Harry shaking Dumbledore's hand, the boy who lived, smiling for the prophet. Harry alone, the stone crumbling to dust in his palm. No master behind him, no savior before him. More than any description could contain. He understands suddenly that the stone is not just power, it is leverage. Whoever holds it dictates the pace of the war. Whoever destroys it dictates something else entirely. "Tell me what you see," Voldemort says. Harry lies with the ease of long practice. "I see you restored, my lord. I see us triumphant." The mirror warms. The stone drops into his pocket. He could hand it over. He could run to Dumbledore. He does neither. Instead, he turns, wand flicking in a sharp, ugly pattern Voldemort himself taught him. The stone in his fist, a crushing charm wrapped in a containment ward. A silent scream of magic that reduces the Philosopher's Stone to red dust and then to nothing at all. Quirrell staggers. Voldemort howls, a sound like tearing parchment and breaking glass. "You dare!" Harry meets the empty red eyes. "No one should have it," he says, and knows it is only half the truth. The other half is simpler. If no one has it, no one owns him through it. Later in the hospital wing, Dumbledore listens to his careful story. Harry omits nothing about the destruction, but also nothing about loyalty to the greater good. The headmaster's eyes are not twinkling now. They look at each other. A moment of understanding passes between them, wary and incomplete. Voldemort is somewhere out there, bodiless and furious. Intrigued, too. Harry can feel it like a distant, amused touch at the back of his mind. Dumbledore is watching, measuring what kind of weapon or rival this boy might become. Harry lies awake, the empty space where the stone might have been burning in his thoughts. Two masters, disappointed. Two wars, unsettled. For the first time, he wonders not if he will survive their plans, but whether he can rewrite them. And in a dark, hidden place far from Hogwarts, Voldemort begins to design a very different lesson for his heir. Year 2. Reforged. Chamber of Secrets with a Serpent Prince. The chamber is open and full of whispers. Summer 1992. Not a chamber of stone, but a study lined in books and coiled serpents, somewhere far from Hogwarts. Harry kneels on cold marble. Voldemort walks a slow circle around him, wand idle in his fingers, voice soft in a way that never means safety. "You disappointed me," he says. No rage, just assessment. "You let Dumbledore take my prize. You let sentiment cloud strategy. The punishments are not cruciatus, not yet. They are lessons. Hours forced to duel masked Death Eaters without a wand, learning to feel magic in his bones. Days of enforced silence while Voldemort speaks directly into his mind, probing, pushing, testing the edges of that strange connection between them. Harry has been planning this resistance for months, building mental walls the way Bathsheba babbling taught him to build wards. Occlumency is no longer theory. It is survival. He pictures Gringotts' vault doors slamming shut, one after another. He pictures Hermione's handwriting on a letter, the calm, precise lines where she explained how to layer thoughts like runes. He learns to let Voldemort see what he chooses: ambition, obedience, a carefully curated hunger for power. When September comes, Hogwarts looks different because Harry walks in already marked. Not just the scar, the parcel tongue, the whispered stories from last year. No one is surprised that first morning in the Great Hall, when a snake carved into a pillar twitches and turns its stone head toward him. He hisses a quiet greeting. Half the hall goes silent. This time there is no dramatic reveal on a dueling platform. Everyone already knows he speaks to serpents. That is the problem. When the first student is found petrified, when the words appear on the wall, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Every eye already has a suspect ready. Slytherin closes its ranks around him. Draco walks at his shoulder like a bodyguard who is also a herald. Some of their housemates look at Harry with fierce, almost religious loyalty. Others with the polite terror reserved for dangerous relatives at formal dinners. Outside the green and silver, the school begins to organize itself like a miniature Wizengamot. Hufflepuffs whisper about safety. Ravenclaws trade theories and timelines. Gryffindors talk about resistance. Hermione watches the lines harden. She looks at him. He looks at her. A moment of understanding passes between them. This is not just about a monster in the pipes. This is about narrative, about who the school decides Harry is. The diary arrives quietly, asked, slipped into his bag after potions. Black cover, blank pages that drink ink and give back answers. Tom Marvolo Riddle writes like a prefect and thinks like a prosecutor. At first, he flatters. A fellow Parselmouth, a fellow Slytherin's heir. Then the questions sharpen. Why do you serve a half-formed shade when you could be the true lord of Slytherin? Why bind yourself to a master who fears death instead of becoming the one others fear? He has been planning this too, this younger echo of Voldemort, but his plan has a different shape. In canon, he would have hollowed Ginny Weasley out and worn her like a glove. Here, he studies Harry instead, probing for cracks Voldemort cannot see. He tries to overwrite memories, to slide his own certainty into Harry's doubts, to make the boy believe that the legacy of Slytherin belongs to the cleverest, not the cruelest. The attacks escalate. The school polarizes. In the common room, Harry hears older Slytherins speak of bloodlines and destiny. In the library, Hermione traces Salazar's name through dusty genealogies and finds more than one possible heir. They look at each other across a table piled with books and realize the same thing at once. The chamber is not just a room. It is a question. Who gets to decide what Slytherin means now? Voldemort, the memory that calls itself Tom Riddle? Or Harry, standing between them with the whole school watching? And somewhere in the pipes beneath their feet, something ancient shifts, waiting to see which master will call. Basilisk and bloodlines, redefining Slytherin's legacy. The chamber is open and full of whispers. Stone damp underfoot. Torchlight swallowed by a long, dark throat of corridor. Hours after they realized what the chamber really is, Harry walks toward it with the one person he did not expect at his side. Draco Malfoy, pale, furious wand already in his hand. He has been planning this descent since the first message on the wall, turning over every whispered lesson from Voldemort, every story about Salazar Slytherin, weighing what it means that the monster answers only to him. But plans change when Ginny Weasley vanishes and the school begins to look at Harry as if the answer is already written in his blood. Hermione meets them at Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Hair frizzed from hours in the library, eyes sharp. She looks at Harry, she looks at Draco. A moment of understanding passes between them. Thin, but real. They need each other more than they need to win this argument. You speak Parseltongue, Hermione says quietly. You open it. We'll make sure you come back. He nods. The tap turns. The sink splits. Cold air rushes up, smelling of age and something older than fear. They walk into the throat of the school, sliding down slick stone, landing hard in the bones of the castle's first war. In the chamber proper, Tom Riddle is waiting. The diary memory looks like a sixth-year prefect, calm, almost kind. His eyes are wrong, too clear, too empty. He studies Harry the way a collector studies a rare artifact from a forgotten magical bank vault. So, Riddle says, the Dark Lord's pet project comes to visit. Another heir of Slytherin. Another half-blood who thinks bloodlines will save him. Harry hears Voldemort in the cadence, Dumbledore in the contempt, and something that is only Tom, the boy who chose to become a monster. He realizes with a small shock that Riddle has been planning this too, writing his will into Ginny's shaking hands, into every letter she poured into that diary. They look at each other. Two versions of the same story. One orphan who built himself by erasing his past. One child shaped by that man's shadow. Taught to value power. Taught that love is a weakness. Now standing here because he refused to abandon a frightened girl. Riddle calls the basilisk. The sound is a tearing hiss through the pipes, a promise of death. The serpent erupts into the chamber, scales like wet stone, eyes like twin curses. Draco chokes on a breath. Hermione raises her wand with hands that shake but do not lower. Harry could command it. He feels the word in his throat, heavy as a blood inheritance ring. Obey. He could turn it on the teachers who hate him, on the students who flinch away, on Dumbledore himself. He could prove Voldemort right about what Slytherin power is for. Instead, he thinks of Ginny, small and still, beside Riddle's fading outline. He thinks of Hermione's hand on his wrist in the library steadying, refusing to let him drown in the legend they keep trying to write around him. Look at me, he hisses to the serpent, closing his own eyes. Listen. Protect them. Kill the false heir. The chamber shudders. The basilisk turns, not toward the children, but toward the memory. Fawkes is not here. The sword does not fall into his hand. This is not that story. This is Harry using the very thing that makes the world afraid of him to strike at the piece of Voldemort that still believes only in purity and terror. The basilisk's fangs pass through Riddle's form, through the diary clutched in Ginny's slack fingers. Ink erupts like blood. The memory screams as the book dissolves, as if Harry is tearing pages out of the future. When it is done, the serpent coils at Harry's feet, waiting. He could keep it, hide it, use it. Sleep, he says instead, until Hogwarts has a better air. Later, when they emerge, soaked and shaking, the story spreads faster than any letter. Harry Potter commanded the monster and saved the girl. Some students cannot meet his eyes. Others nod once, grudging, as if they have seen something they do not yet know how to name. Dumbledore looks at him with new calculation. Hermione watches all of them, then looks back at Harry as if the world has shifted a fraction. Maybe, she thinks, the boy raised by Voldemort is not entirely lost. And far below in the dark, something else that remembers Salazar's true intent stirs, listening for the next command. Pattern interrupt. A quiet library. Truce. Between enemies. The library is almost silent. Only the soft ticking of the enchanted lamps and the faint rustle of pages turning themselves. Near the back, under a window that looks out into blackness, Harry sits alone. Open books in a loose semicircle. Arithmetic charts. A thin, cracked volume on soul anchors. A copy of Hogwarts. A history with 3 bookmarks jutting out like flags of occupation. He has been planning this study session since dinner, mapping which questions he can risk asking in public, which he must answer alone. How far the chamber's awakening can be pushed before Dumbledore notices. How far his father's designs can be advanced without exposing everything. The doors whisper open. Footsteps. Quick, precise but hesitant at the threshold. Hermione. She walks between the shelves, following the one pool of light that is not a staff table. She has a stack of her own. Magical contract theory, goblin neutrality charters, a treatise on the ethics of binding oaths. She does not expect anyone. Then she sees him. He looks up. She freezes. They look at each other. "You're not supposed to be out after hours," she says automatically, then hears the absurdity of it. She is here too. "So aren't you," Harry answers. The corner of his mouth moves, not quite a smile. Research? Always, she says. Her voice is steady, but her fingers tighten on the books. I wanted to understand what happened with the chamber, with the message, and with you. She sits opposite him, not beside. The table becomes a border. A neutral bank counter in the middle of a war neither of them is old enough to vote in. Hermione looks at the cracked soul magic text, then back to his face. You risked yourself to shield the Muggleborns when the wall opened, she says. If you believe what Voldemort believes, why? Harry feels the question land. He has been trained for duels, interrogations, the cold logic of sacrifice, not this. Belief is layered, he says slowly. He wants a purified, ordered world. I want his world safe enough that he never has to fear again, that I never have to fear again. Loyalty is the spine of it. But that doesn't mean I enjoy pointless slaughter. That's not an answer, she says. That's strategy. I'm asking about right and wrong. He looks at her, she looks at him. For a moment he is 11 again in Gringotts, a goblin reading out blood inheritance lines that rewrote everything he thought he knew about himself. Right, he says, is keeping the people you've claimed alive. Wrong is wasting assets you can't replace. Her face tightens, but she does not look away. They're not assets, Harry, they're students, children, people. A moment of understanding passes between them. She hears how he has been taught to count lives. He hears how alien that arithmetic is to her. I'm not going to let Hogwarts become a proving ground for his ideology, she says. So here is my offer, a truce, conditional. His hand stills over the parchment. Go on. I won't go to Dumbledore with what I suspect about you, about the chamber, about the way the wards reacted to your presence. In return, you do not target Muggle-born students. No hexes in the corridors, no orchestrated accidents, and you do not recruit here by force or threat. Not for him, not for anyone. You assume I could, he says quietly. You could, she answers. You walk through this castle like you already own it. People follow that. Fear follows that. It is unexpectedly funny in a dry, bitter way to be told by a Muggle-born girl that he looks like a lord, as if she has seen the Peveril sigil burning cold on his ring finger when no one else has. How do I know you won't run to him with everything I say, she adds. That I'm not just volunteering my terms to the Dark Lord's heir? Pattern interrupt. He laughs once, a short, startled sound. He doesn't need me to report you. He already knows you are dangerous. Then he tests her. There are Death Eaters, he says slowly, who think Muggle-borns are a temporary problem, that once the Ministry falls, you'll be processed, quietly, no spectacle, just gone. Her knuckles go white around her quill. The air between them sharpens. Is that his plan? She asks. No, Harry says. His plan is to use you until you're no longer useful. He thinks some of you can be turned, bound, oathed, that your minds are a resource. He has been planning this since before I could walk. She swallows, files that away like a dangerous letter she cannot yet send, but cannot burn either. Thank you, she says, for telling me. You could run to Dumbledore now, he says. Tell him the shape of it, see what he does. I could, she agrees. But then you'd never talk to me again, and I think I need you to keep talking. I need to know how he thinks. They look at each other. The lamps tick. Somewhere far below, Stone remembers Parseltongue.